Hello there, Terraverse TV fans. It's John Altarelli again, your host, and today we're going to do a little follow-up on a recent video that I did about stolen valor, and I'm also going to add some information and some things about the Trump and Elon Musk Twitter interview. I thought I was going to make it a longer segment, but after going through the research and the fact-checking, I realized that it would take the rest of my life to deal with every single inaccuracy by both the media and Mr. Trump. So I'll hit some highlights and then just talk about it generally. So we'll start with the other topic first because I want to follow up. I had a lot of comments on the stolen valor one. Anyway, I'll pause for a second. Jenna is here, our producer. And if you like the content, again, please subscribe, like, share it with other people, and hit the bell so you can get updates. So I'm going to start with a little follow-up because I'd like to try to keep the facts straight. I like to stay current, and I want to make sure that when I do provide content, if I find that there's additional content that or additional facts that are material, or if I got anything wrong and people have corrected me, I'd like to try to correct the record. I'm not like the mainstream media. I don't mind if I'm found, if I found a fact that ends up being wrong. I do my best to do the research. It's very difficult in today's world because there's so many sources. And I try to go to original sources. I try to use original databases and the like. But there's some things you do have to rely on, either news articles or other outlets, and it's not always correct. So I will try to correct those from time to time. But I got some great help from our viewers. They got a lot of comments. It was not surprising. A lot of military people chimed in. They had a lot of strong views about stolen valor, about Tim Walz, a lot about J.D. Vance. And I want to share some of those with you, even though they're in the comments. You can go look at them yourself, but I do want to share some. And I tried to respond to many of them. And the other thing that I want to point out that was really pleasing to me, I would say 99% of the comments were very helpful, very respectful. And even if they didn't agree with me or they wanted to call out something that they thought I might have missed, they did it in the appropriate way. And a lot of them were veterans. So, we're and thank goodness veterans mostly treat veterans pretty well. So I got a pretty good reception from the veteran community. There was one or two, maybe one person that got a little emotional and, sort of took a point of view and whatever. But I don't worry about those. And I even responded to that person. I try my best to give everybody a shot. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time on people who are set in their ways and they just want to take a position. You're either one side or the other. You can't be in the middle. You can't just try to point out the facts. And I'm trying not to take a view. Okay, I'm trying to just give you the facts and my perspective, which is just my perspective. I'm not telling you that that's the right view or you need to believe that or take it. But I do want people to know what I feel, and I try to explain my bias on everything, and I always do. So. In any event, let's get to a couple of the things that came out of the comments. So a lot of people pointed out that, J.D., Walz didn't attack J.D. Vance. True enough, I don't think he has. Other people, surrogates, a lot of people on the left very much did attack him. But, Walz did attack his, fact that he was a Ivy League guy, and I thought that was, a cheap shot. But look, we're in a political season. Everyone's doing cheap shots. I can't keep up with them all. And frankly, I decided I'm not going to. I thought I was going to sit here and try to referee this stuff, but it's impossible. The amount of, vitriol, just the amount of baloney and rhetoric and just falsehoods and just attacks, and it's just too much. And if this is the way we're going to go, I have to spend every minute of my day trying to fact check this stuff and bringing some reality to the show. I will cover just some general topics. And then as we go forward, I'm going to go back to focusing on what I always wanted to focus on, which is just basic facts about major social, economic, and technical and technology issues that are not. They may be politicized, but I can get away from that because I'm just going to deal with the actual underlying facts, and I'm not going to take a position whether Trump said it right or Kamala said it right or who did what said. It's just impossible, and you'll see why when I get to that segment where I show you what happened after the Twitter interview with Elon Musk. It was so outlandish, the perspectives that were thrown out there that it just tells you that we cannot have a civil conversation in this country. We cannot have anything that the mainstream media is telling you to be trusted at all. And therefore, if you're just in your bubble and you only want to hear from CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, and you want to keep getting that stuff regurgitated to you, then that's what you're going to get. And if you believe that without any analysis, then that's your problem, and you're going to be wrong most of the time, unfortunately. So let's get to the J.D. Vance, Tim Walz stolen valor arguments. Like I said, I never said that Tim Walz ever, attacked JD. I did talk about JD's record because I think it's relevant that, he was a military guy, Walz was a military guy. JD taking issue with Walz, I had an issue with that. Although, and a lot of guys pointed this out to me, he clearly did things that would tick off and had ticked off. I mean, got a lot of people who were ticked off in the military community about what Walz did, the way he misrepresented his record. And it's true, he did. I just personally didn't think it was enough, to be called stolen valor, and I was willing to let it go if he had corrected the record and apologize for what he did. And then subsequent to that, I found out a couple of new things which I'm going to share today that unfortunately do not go well for Mr. Walz, and I think it does call more into question his credibility and whether you can trust him or not on what he says about both his record and clearly when you start to listen to his policy flip-flops and the like, it's to me, your truthfulness is going to bear on whether or not I can trust you when you tell me you're going to do something. And you could say the same for J.D. Vance, you could say the same for Trump. We can go tit for tat. I'm fine with all that. But we were talking about these two guys. So here's the two new things that came up that I wasn't aware of, and I want to just update you. So the first one has to do with these challenge coins. You see the screen there. He had a challenge coin minted with his rank of Command Master Sergeant. You see it there. It's pointed out an arrow, and then it's circled over there with the ranks. Now, challenge medals, military people and organizations, the government agencies, they mint these things and they give them out to people, mostly I think civilians who are helpful to the agency, sort of like, it's not like a medal, like, someone might think it's a medal that you would get for being in the military. It's not that, but they try to give it the equivalent of that. If you've done something good for them and they want you to feel, rewarded, they can't give you anything else, so this is the best that they can do. And frankly, I have a bunch of them. So I'll just show you a few because I do a lot of work, as I told you, with many organizations in the government and military folks, and I'm very proud that I have quite a few of them. And so here's one that I really love. Can you see that, Jen? Okay, this one I got from the Naval Special Warfare Group 8 commander. I got this in Hawaii during a change of command ceremony on the Missouri. It's beautiful. I love it. It covers all the different organizations that they cover: submarines, Special Warfare, Space Force, Navy SEALs. I mean, it's a really beautiful medal. It's one of my favorites. I've got them here from, let's see here. This one's the Customs and Border because I've been trying to work with people down on the border, trying to help figure out what to do about immigration problems down there. And some of my partners have met with on the ground, have gone down to Arizona and Texas to actually see it for themselves. I was supposed to go on a trip, but I got sick, so I missed it. I'll try to get down there soon. This one's from Homeland Security Investigations. I have a lot of friends there, and you do some work with them. And this one I'm also very proud of because this is for the Afghan Female Tactical Platoon. And I think if you've seen some of my content, maybe you did or you didn't, but I used it in one of my salons, the Terraverse salons. We had a documentary that was filmed about how our special forces trained and embedded with women from Afghanistan who became female special forces with our female special forces. They did some amazing work in Afghanistan. And then, of course, when we had that incredible pullout debacle, and I'm going to say that I'm a military guy, and any military guy will back me up on this. You don't just pull out, leave billions of dollars of equipment, over 300,000 rifles, hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, helicopters, aircraft. I mean, it was amazing how much equipment was left behind that now the Taliban is using, against the civilian population and other places. We basically armed the Taliban in a way they could never be armed on their own. And I don't know how in the world anyone here thought that that was a good idea. So that's something we can also talk about. And that also kind of came up in the Trump Twitter thing, and he's been bashed about his exaggerations, which we'll get into. So as I said, so Tim Walz had a challenge medal minted with the incorrect rank, and he used that for quite some time during his campaign. That's not good. It's one thing to just sort of say it here and there, or maybe have it on your website, but this is pretty bad. And I don't, the question in this post on Twitter was, who paid for it? I don't know, probably the government, but it's not good. And I got to tell you what, people in the military, people in these agencies that actually do these things, they're not going to be happy about seeing that. Okay, and I'm very disappointed that he didn't fix that and correct that. He clearly was not a, command master sergeant when he retired. He was an E8 master sergeant and not an E9 sergeant major. So that's one issue. Okay, so the second thing that came up, and this was a shocker to me because I didn't have any idea, and I can't believe that he got this far along in the campaign and it didn't come up until recently. Jen, can we show the other clip now? This is, by the way, this is CNN, okay? So you can probably trust that it's true, and it's probably not even as bad as they say that it is. But let's put that clip up.
Learning new details about Governor Tim Walz and how his campaign tried to spin his drunk driving arrest nearly 30 years ago. The incident is well documented by court and public records, but as our K-File reports tonight, Walz's campaign didn't tell the truth about it when he ran for Congress in 2006. Andrew Kaczynski is out front for us. Andrew, what did you find out about this arrest and how it was portrayed?
Yeah, that's right. And this isn't really a story just about that DUI arrest. This is a story about someone getting a DUI arrest and then his campaign repeatedly misleading and giving false statements to the public about it. So let's just go to the facts of that 1995 arrest first, okay? Walz was speeding over 95 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. He failed a field sobriety test that was administered by a state trooper. He then admitted in court that he had been drinking. He was transported to a local hospital for a blood test that showed he had a blood alcohol level of 0.128, and that was above the state legal limit. He then took a plea deal where he pled guilty to a reckless driving charge. Now, those are the facts. That's from police records, that's from court records, and that all is completely undisputed.
All right, so that is clear, the idea of what happened. What did his congressional campaign actually say happened?
So let's fast forward to 2006. He's in a tight congressional race. He is running for Congress. This was a Republican-held district that he was trying to flip, and then a local Republican blog puts up that he had this arrest for drunk driving. Now, I'm going to give you sort of the bullets of what his campaign said about that. The campaign citing Walz claimed that he had not been drinking and driving. They attributed his failed field sobriety test to hearing loss from his time in the National Guard, not alcohol. The campaign falsely said that he drove himself to the station, that he was allowed to drive home. They said the DUI charges were dropped because they were unfounded. And the campaign even faulted this trooper for saying that he didn't realize that Walz had hearing impairment. They claimed a judge actually chastised the state trooper for it. Now take a look at just one statement that his campaign put out. They said he, quote, couldn't understand what the trooper was telling him during the field sobriety test, and the trooper refused to speak up. The DUI charges were dropped for a reason. The judge would not have dismissed them if there were anything to him. Tim drove to the station that night and drove home afterwards. I don't think the trooper would have allowed that if there had been a problem. So none of what they said in that 2006 race was true at all, as we saw in just looking at those details of the 1995 arrest.
Your reporting sort of points out this is an issue of deception. What is the Harris-Walz campaign saying about this situation?
Yeah, so we reached out to them. We asked, how are you, squaring with that 2006 race versus what actually happened in 1995? They declined to comment to CNN. Now, Walz did, when he ran for governor in 2018, he did own up to this drunk driving arrest. He said it was a life-altering moment for him, that he stopped drinking, and now his favorite drink is Diet Mountain Dew.
Okay, so let's get in there. So this was quite a shocker. I didn't know about this. I cannot believe that we got this far down the line and no one had picked up on this yet. Usually this is the kind of stuff that comes out in the early due diligence on a candidate, although it hasn't been that long, so I guess that's not surprising. And what worries me is that this is just the tip of the iceberg and what else is going to come out. Because remember, these candidates have never been vetted for presidential or vice presidential, neither Vance, Kamala, nor Tim Walz have had that scrutiny. Now, the good thing about Trump is that we know everything about him, and then some, and you don't need to do any more vetting on him. And plus, he'll do a good job of saying enough stuff on his own that we don't need to worry about having enough stuff to deal with for Mr. Trump. But these new candidates, or these recent candidates, are going to go through quite an exam. And I think obviously one of the reasons why. And look, you can say what you want. There's no reason that they're keeping, Kamala behind closed doors and not letting her interviews, because they're trying to figure out how bad her stuff is. And normally they would have had a long time to do their own research and come up with their own risks analysis, and already have come up with ways to deal with all this ahead of time, rather than getting caught flat-footed like they're going to get caught here. And that's what I'm sure they're doing for her right now, on top of trying to teach her how to speak in sentences and try to give her some talking points that she can actually, make. It makes sense to when she gets in these interviews. Because even if they script it, she doesn't seem to do very well. So hopefully that's part of her training process, and she'll be much more articulate, because I want our presidents to be articulate. So that's the next thing. So let me just talk about this a little bit. Now, this is a big deal in the military to get a DUI. A big deal. It may be because it was a long time ago. Maybe he was in a favorable jurisdiction, but I got to tell you, I'm shocked that he wasn't booted out at the time. I know just recently, and I'm not going to mention neither the service or the state or whatever, two extremely high-ranking, super decorated war heroes that got DUIs, and they were not even driving 95 miles an hour, no accidents, no one hurt. First-time offenses, were booted out of the military. One of them even served 5 days in jail for just the DUI, first-time offense. They didn't get offered a plea, and they were high-ranking officers, one on the way to be at a general rank, and their whole careers and their lives were ruined by a DUI. Now, what does that say about the military? Well, okay, that's probably a good thing. Military, zero tolerance, right? They don't fool around, particularly when it comes to command level and officer levels. You make that kind of mistake, they hold you to a really high standard in the military. I guess I'm okay with that. How that didn't happen to Tim Walz, I don't know. Maybe things have changed over the last 30 years. Maybe the military's gotten tougher than it used to be. Maybe he was in a good state where he had political pull. I don't know what happened, but he got away with something that I know real heroes, people who were in combat for decades in Afghanistan and Iraq, and who served honorably and were highly decorated with silver stars, bronze stars, every kind of award you could imagine, lost everything for DUI. So I am very upset with this situation. And then the fact that he lied about it and that they continue to have no comment on it, that right there, he's now lost pretty much any chance that I would ever support him, because I can't trust him at all. And I don't like the fact that he got that favorable treatment. Now, if it wasn't just for the military, I'm not a big guy on punishing people to the death, losing their life over something like that. Look, but for the grace of God, I'm sure almost every person, or at least male, who grew up, and went out drinking, maybe was over the limits, okay? I'll admit to it. I'm sure there's been times, I don't drink much now, so it wouldn't be now, but years ago when I was a youngster, I'm sure there are times that I should not have been driving. I never got in an accident in my entire life. I've never hurt anyone. I've never gotten arrested, and I'm just lucky. But I don't judge this, okay? It could happen to anyone. It's wrong. You have to pay a price for it, okay? And people do. Should their whole lives be ruined for that? No, okay? However, when you run for political office, or in the military, for example, where they hold you to a much higher standard, okay, you got to take the consequences, and those consequences are normally termination. And for me, that would be probably disqualification to run for vice president. Not so much on the offense, but the lying about it, okay? That really was over the line for me. So that's where I come out on that one. That one really troubled me. The challenge metal, not a good thing, okay? Because these things mean a lot. I mean, I have a lot of them, and I got to tell you, they mean a lot to me. They came from people who, were true patriots. The fact that they even consider me to be worthy of a challenge medal, that for the work that I do with them, it really it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the people who get these, and it means a lot to the organizations. They don't just give them away. It's a big deal. So those are the two things about him. Now, I don't, I'm not going to go any further with this because this can keep going on and on and on. Who knows what we're going to find out next? Who knows what we're going to find out about J.D. Vance? I'm not going to get into that anymore because, frankly, it's a political season. There's going to be lies, and there's going to be this, that, and the other. I can't possibly spend the rest of my life trying to verify each and every fact on this stuff. I didn't start this podcast thing to do that. What I did try to do is to bring the truth about things that matter in the economy, in technology, in social issues, not part of the political left and right debate. Because once you go down that rabbit hole, you can't stop. Okay, and I'm going to show you why in a minute, why I made this decision. I started to think about doing it. I thought maybe I can get my arms around it. I thought maybe with my research help and all that and my own research skills, I could actually come back and and deal with these things. And then when I realized the machinery that's behind this misinformation, I won't be able to do it. And it's impossible. And it's because the nuance of the lying and the nuance of how they misrepresent stuff, it's very tricky. And I'll show you a few examples. It would just be, and frankly, I don't have the life energy to waste my time on that. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. I hope the rest of you do the same. I hope you use your own due diligence, use your own judgment. You make your own moral decisions about that, and I hope you do. Okay. Well, I think that's quite enough on this segment. It kind of went over. I was hoping to do another piece today, but we'll make that a different segment. In any event. Thanks for viewing. I hope this was helpful. I wanted to sort of correct the record on where the Stolen Valor segment left off last time because it's new information. I'll generally try to do that if the information that I find is new is materially impacting something I've already put out there. Because as you know, my goal here is to try to keep the facts coming, try to keep you informed of what's really happening out there, and not be biased by the corporate news media, which unfortunately is not willing or able to provide any sort of unbiased factual reporting. So again, thank you very much. We'll see you next segment. Again, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share, please, and there'll be a bunch of links down below for things that we talked about earlier. Thanks again. Take care.